currently have 5 clean sheets in the last 6, which is funny because I heard someone on the radio say that yesterday after the game. United now 5 clean sheets in the last 6. And before that, everyone was going about how United couldn't score because 3 of those were 0-0s.
You heard it on the radio?
Yeah.
Was it you that said it on the radio?
Someone else said it on the radio. It's not just me. It's not when I go on the radio. It's not like there's one channel.
I thought you'd said it and
turn on radio.
I thought you'll come here now and say, I heard someone on the radio say that.
No, but we're going to look at Luke Shaw. We're going to look at Dean Henderson as well.
Controversial.
Because I think they are 2 very crucial parts to Man United's defence, and I think we'll look a bit about Maguire and Lindelof as well.
What about Aaron Wan-Bissaka?
But we kind of know he's good defensively.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? He sort of gets away with it in these conversations because he can do that. Do you think that United have been unfairly criticised in recent weeks for the 0-0s, or do you think it's fair enough and now we are sort of taking a win at the end of the tunnel there and then retroactively or retrospectively saying, oh, it's 5 clean sheets in the last 6 when really we've scored like 2 goals or 3 goals in the last 5? Do you know what I mean?
I think there was a little bit OTT about it, a little bit of OTT-ness, if that's a thing.
T-ness.
I thought the Crystal Palace one was disgusting. I'm not going to defend that. It was terrible. It was a terrible game of football. Yeah. United were pretty awful, and it just wasn't a good day at the office at all for them. I thought the 0-0 at Stamford Bridge, I don't think it was that bad a result. If you look at Chelsea under Tuchel, they've been are they unbeaten? Yeah,
in the league. Yeah, I actually think they are overall, to be honest.
Yeah, so it's not the end of the world getting a 0-0 there at Stamford Bridge, either in that context of that game or historically. And also the Sociedad, the dead rubber, we'd already beaten 4-0. So when you look at some of these 0-0s, it's not that bad.
2 of them are quite defensible, aren't they? Like,
what was the other one? Not the Chelsea one. What was the other one? You said there was 5.
Not all 0-0s. 3 of them were 0-0s.
Oh, sorry, right.
5 clean sheets.
5 clean sheets,
home against Sociedad.
Yeah.
The 3 0-0s you mentioned, and then obviously the City game.
Yeah. So look at that. It's not like quite as dramatic as some people have made out. I think you have to look at the context of it. So what makes me laugh about the problems we've been going through is a lot of people have been blaming the likes of Harry Maguire and our defence. You think, well, defensively we're all right. That's not the issue. It's further up the pitch is the issue.
Well, it's weird because defensively, last season, United were kind of thought to be a bit shaky at the back, and yet we had one of the best clean sheet records in Europe. I think maybe the best in terms of the number of clean sheets we've kept in the season. And then this season, for a long time, I think we may still have one of the worst defensive records, as in goals conceded, in the top half. And for a while, it was the worst. So defensively, we aren't that good in terms of the number of goals conceded. But again, we are ticking over with these clean sheets. And Dean Henderson, I think he's had 5 clean sheets in a row in the games he's played in. We'll move on to Dean Henderson because I want to talk about that. And I've got a little excerpt from the Telegraph today after the game yesterday. So this is from James Ducker in the Telegraph. And he's spoken about Dean Henderson, saying the easy option would have been for Henderson to roll the ball out to his right. Now, this is for United's second goal against City yesterday that Dean Henderson started with a throw out. The easy option would have been Henderson to roll the ball out to his right, but having taken his time to carefully survey the scene, the England goalkeeper spotted the space open up on the United's left and flung a 30-yard throw out to Shaw. The ball bounced perfectly in front of Shaw, and with João Cancelo making the unwise decision to try to intercept it, United's impressive left-back was able to take the ball on his chest and ghost past City in one movement. Henderson did have a nice presence about him, and United's defence seemed to draw confidence from the man behind them, not least with his willingness to come and meet and collect those high balls that too often seem to bring the worst in De Gea. Do you agree with what he said there in terms of the fact that ball out to Shaw was something that maybe De Gea wouldn't have done, and the collecting of the balls? And do you think that he brings it an extra assuredness to the whole defence, not just what he does in terms of saving shots?
Yeah, 100% agree with pretty much all of that. I think that people, on the post-match live, I said that he did well, Dean Henderson, to throw the ball out, and we sort of waxed lyrical about it during the watch long. And a few people in the comments were saying, well, it wasn't that amazing a throw, it's just a decent throw. But I think sometimes David De Gea doesn't do that. He tends to do this thing where he'll collect the ball. When he's got the ball, he'll wait till people have moved up, and then he'll usually kicks it. It was quite sort of quick thinking by Dean Henderson. I think there's definitely an improvement in terms of the way he commands his area on David De Gea. I think that's always been a flaw in David De Gea's game. And I think that must filter through to the defence. And also what you've seen now with Ole as well, I know it's slightly different yesterday because we're more counter-attacking. We are defending a much higher, we are sort of pushing up the pitch more. The defensive line is much higher up. And if you need to have a lot of confidence in your goalkeeper when you're defending the line. And I think sometimes if you don't, you tend to revert a little bit back to sort of dropping deep and things like that. So when you've got a goalkeeper who can play out from the back, who has that confidence, and Dean Henderson does, and we've seen Harry Maguire, for example, I know he came unstuck against Sheffield United, but usually it works where Harry Maguire will play it back to Dean Henderson and they'll sort of pass it about a little bit more around the back between the goalkeeper. You don't always see that with David De Gea, and I think that the argument with De Gea has always been he's the greatest shot stopper at times on the planet.
Yeah.
So the flaws in his game when it comes to his distribution and his command in his box are worth sort of taking because of the advantage you get from having David De Gea in goal, who's so amazing at shot stopping. But I think now it's sort of that close that I'd actually give the edge to Dean Henderson. And this isn't a reaction just from yesterday's performance, because I think me and you've been debating this pretty much for 18 months on and off since the full-time Devils days. I think we're at a place now where Dean Henderson deserves to start.
Yeah, and we've got a comment from Kwame, and he said, United gets unfair treatment because we're United. Luke Shaw has been splendid. Hendo will eventually be number one. Feels good to wake up this morning. Ole in. It does feel good to wake up this morning. With Henderson, one of the things that kind of you see players do, especially players that are on the cusp of a first-team role, and I know he's got a first-team role, but he's not the first choice, it's taking advantage of situations that are given to you or that are unfold before you. And obviously De Gea is away at the moment. He's had a baby. He's looking after the baby and his wife and those sorts of things. And it's given, I think the reports before the game yesterday, there may be sort of 5 or 6 games for Henderson in a row here to prove himself. Do you think there's a chance that when De Gea comes back, he isn't the number one anymore? Or do you think that no matter what this season, De Gea is going to come back in, he's still number one, and we'll decide at the end of the year?
There's a part of me that thinks Ole does favour De Gea and will just stick with him because he's his guy, and he's always stuck with him despite some of the mistakes we've seen from David De Gea over the last 18 months or so, because we have seen quite a few, especially by his standards. But then I reminded of the fact that Ole does have a ruthless streak. People forget that. People think he's this sort of kindly, avuncular type character who's just always got his arm around the players and come on mate, we'll be all right. Hi Rashi, you all right mate? Yeah, everything's going to be okay. But we saw how he got rid of certain players, the likes of Fellaini, Lukaku, Sanchez. Didn't mess about there. Jesse Lingard, we saw he moved him on or albeit on loan, and also we've seen him remonstrating with certain players as well on the touchline. I think he's got that in him, and I think that he's got that ruthless streak, and he'll know, or I think he'd know if it was me, that Dean Henderson is a better option in the minute for Manchester United, and you're likely to get more points with him in goal. And I think that's what should be the overriding factor in this decision. And I think that if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wants to keep the United job, he has to make these tough decisions. And I'm not saying that if he sticks with De Gea, he's going to lose his job or anything like that. I think that it's a sort of, these are the types of decisions that you have to make as a Manchester United manager, the ruthless ones, the one that Sir Alex Ferguson used to make all the time, where you don't let sentiment, you don't let what you've done 2 years ago affect what's going on now. 2 years ago, Dean Henderson was 21. Yeah. It wasn't an issue, and also David De Gea's form was great. Fast forward 2 years, we've had a lot of incidents where David De Gea has had poor games, made mistakes. Dean Henderson, during those 2 years, has gone from strength to strength, and now for me, he's ready to maybe not be the answer to United's goalkeeping problems. Maybe he comes in and, in the summer even, or in the year from now, we're going, okay. But I think he deserves to start over David De Gea. Really think.
That's a good point. That I think, regardless of whether he's still United's number one in 5 years, that doesn't mean he shouldn't be starting now, because he has been better recently. And it's hard to sort of quantify when a goalkeeper comes out and collects the ball. I used to say the same thing about Rio Ferdinand as a defender. There isn't a stat and there isn't a compilation or a highlight of what a player stopped happening. Like, he stops our defenders having to head that ball out. He stops a one-on-one aerial duel between a centre-back or a full-back and their attacker by coming out and collecting the ball. You can't put a price, or you can't put a stat or a highlight or a video or anything on, here's what we know Dean Henderson stopped by collecting the ball, because you obviously can't read into the future. But what we can see based on what De Gea does, Which again, all of these things I'm saying about De Gea are under the sort of knowledge that David De Gea has been an incredible goalkeeper for Manchester United. We were, stuck, and we know what it's like to be stuck in the sort of quagmire of no first choice goalkeeper or no world class goalkeeper for roughly 10 years between Schmeichel and Van der Sar, or 7 years, whatever it was. We know what that's like. So I'm not, devalue anything De Gea has done or saying that it's easy to just come up with a top class goalkeeper out of nowhere. But that still doesn't, like you said, you're not immune from criticism or from praising another player just because of that. But yeah, you can't really quantify how helpful it is. But as I said, when you watch De Gea and you watch the defence around De Gea, it seems shakier. Like Maguire having to make that header against Newcastle, it was a shit header, but should he have had to make that header? And again, there's a few examples of that, a few obvious examples of that. I think the Leipzig game in the second leg, not the second leg, the second game against Leipzig in the Champions League, their third goal, the ball just comes all the way across the 6-yard line. Like, you can't really say, well, Henderson would have got there. You don't know he would have got
Everton's
there.
a good example.
Everton's another good example. And a few set pieces. Sheffield United one, yes, he was fouled, but it wasn't the hardest of fouls. No. A goalkeeper with a bit more momentum, a bit more
belief
maybe, would have maybe got to that ball just enough to flick it on. All you have to do is stop him winning the header or distract him. He didn't even distract their player, let alone win the ball, let alone punch it clear. So it is going to be difficult to say, oh, Henderson's done something De Gea wouldn't have done. Because like I said, there's no real stat for chances you prevented.
No, you're right.
But it's clear he's doing that, and the clean sheets are there to prove it, I think.
They are, and I think it was you talking about yesterday, and it's sometimes the stats and clean sheets can give you a bit of a skewed picture because Dean Henderson might have been playing against lesser teams in the early rounds of the Cup or whatever. So you look at it, you go, he's kept all these clean sheets. Some of those clean sheets may have been against opposition where you'd expect him to keep a clean sheet, and we've not been as under the cosh as much as we would have been had we been facing one of the better teams. But I think when you look at his performances, and against some good teams as well, City being one of them, even against Crystal Palace, he didn't have a lot to do. He had one save to make, though, and he made it. He did well. So, yeah, I think he's performing well, and I think that for me, we've been saying this for months. Is it time for Dean Henderson? And the more I see of him, and the more I see of David De Gea this season, the more that I sort of tend to think that it is time to give Dino or Hendo the number one spot. What do you reckon?
What we're talking about?
Stephen Howson arrives. We're talking about Dean Henderson at the moment.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Whether he deserves to carry on as United's number one, and whether you think he will be number one by the time De Gea returns. What have you made of him so far?
He's got half a dozen games to give a go for it, hasn't he? And I'm more confident in our back line when he's in it. Yeah, I would definitely say that. I'm definitely more confident in our back line when he's in it. I love how he comes claiming for crosses. I like that he started a couple of attacks. That's something I'm very happy with. Can he be number one? I mean, Ollie's got to come out and sort of back his number one keeper, hasn't he? But I reckon privately he's giving him the eyes like... There's not a chance that he's not said to Dean Henderson, hey, if you keep 6 clean sheets, how can you not say that he's earning the right to be number one?
And I was just saying before you got here about it's kind of hard to put a statistic on the chances that Henderson collecting the ball in the air prevents. You can't really say, we prevented that chance because it never happened. Do you think that United's recent run of clean sheets, and I think it's 5 in a row for Henderson now, admittedly some of them against lesser opposition, but do you think that's a coincidence and just a product of playing against that weaker opposition, or do you think he does prevent chances by being more dominant?
I think his save percentage is higher. I think that's something that you can measure.
Yeah.
Like you said, you can't measure chances that didn't happen because he prevented something earlier in the move. But that one, which game was it? Where I tweeted where there was 2 identical-ish crosses and
was it Newcastle and Sociedad?
Yes,
sounds about right. So you had so Henderson comes and claims one for Sociedad, ends up throwing, setting away, and Marcus scores, and then De Gea stays on his line. We end up conceding. It's a net positive of 2 goals from 2 identical crosses.
And those, I remember when you tweeted that, and those videos were ridiculously similar.
People going, they're not exactly the same.
I know, but it was like...
but it's a cross from the right-hand side, and it was a lofted cross from about 25, 30 yards
dropping
out.
it right on the edge of the 6-yard.
It couldn't have got any closer if you sort of recreated it.
And it's one of those
training.
things that the difference is, because I saw some people with that, and for those who didn't see it, it was basically just De Gea stays on his line for one, and Maguire heads the ball to Saint-Maximin, who smashed it in the roof of the net. It's a shit header from Maguire, but that's not really the point of the video. And the other one is Henderson coming out and just claiming the ball comfortably, no fuss, no nothing.
And that was a lot of the replies as well. Maguire should have done better with a header.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
But
yeah,
he doesn't have
it's
to make that
a lot easier
header.
to catch the ball and not give it away than it is to head it backwards.
My arms are a lot taller than my head.
But the key to that is when you watch that video, you watch those two videos or anyone who saw it, it's not like, well, De Gea would have had to do. It's the starting position.
Correct.
Henderson is 4 yards out when that cross comes in. De Gea is like a step off his line. Henderson's like almost already there.
It's like he's been told he's not allowed to leave it. Almost.
I don't quite get that, because maybe he likes being on his line, so he gets the furthest distance the ball can travel before he has to make the save. I don't know what it is.
Guess who I've just had on the podcast?
Who have you had?
Who did you think it was?
Well, I mean, I can guess based on what you said before.
Go on then.
Is that what you want me to guess?
Yeah.
Jack Grealish?
Robbie Savage.
Have you?
Really?
Very much the sort of Jack Grealish of 2003, would you say, potentially?
Yeah, I said no
sort
of. Ever.
Jamie Burton with Super Chat said, Dave's first child, 100%. This makes him move back to Spain. His wife lives there with COVID and not been able to pop back so easily. I think he may ask to go. That's a point that's maybe worth mentioning.
But the reason he's on paternity is because she wasn't coming here for it.
Yeah,
she wanted to stay there.
Of course. And he's already made that attempt to go to Madrid once. We know he's happy to go back to Spain. It's not like he's like, I want to live in England. Peter Kelly, De Gea apparently wanted to stay in England. I think that's in response to that. Do you think Ollie said to him he could go as a way to drop him without actually dropping him or making news?
I think Solskjaer's man management in times like this has been pretty spectacularly good. Yeah. And I would say this probably could get filed underneath. Like, this is Manchester United. It's an absolute shitstorm if he drops De Gea.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's United's, we think, most expensive player, most highly paid player, certainly there or thereabouts. Yeah. One of the highest paid players in the league. It's not like you just drop him and everyone goes, oh, do you remember that Spanish fella that we used to have?
Remember when Rooney got dropped by, was it Mourinho, head of one of the derbies? And there was like a line of photographers just waiting at the dugout for him to go sit in it. Yeah. And you just like...
Remember when Fergie dropped him for the Real Madrid game? And that was the massive talking point before the Real Madrid game, was that Wayne Rooney had been dropped for...
Joe, my time up is like an absolute gold mine, isn't it?
It is. It's, yeah, I mean, it's proper cancelled.
Very much a double-edged sword, that time up, I think.
However,
times have moved on.
I was bringing this up for a reason.
Those views.
So shut up,
Stephen.
Well, obviously, it was the anniversary not so long ago of the Real Madrid game.
Yeah.
And my status the following morning, the Sun have got Rooney going to PSG.
Yeah.
And they only give Welbeck a 6 out of 10, which tells you that the Sun knows fuck all about fuck all.
Very true. On both fronts.
You stand by it.
Stood the test of time, didn't it?
It did. One thing I wanted to ask you about Dean Henderson, both of you. Do you rate him in terms of the way he communicates with his defence more than David De Gea? Is that a real thing, or is that getting overblown? Because I keep seeing this, and I keep seeing, and I've not seen as much evidence of it. I've seen a little bit, but then I'm thinking, it's like David De Gea doesn't speak to his defence the way some people go on, and I'm not having that one.
I asked someone who knows.
Okay, that's so fair enough.
It's a good start, innit?
I know.
So piss off, Jay.
Well, no, that's fair. I've admitted I don't know.
Well,
so
I asked Rio.
That's perfectly good.
I asked Rio, does De Gea speak? And he went, no, but he goes, he was young when I played in front of him, and I can imagine he didn't necessarily want to bollock like me and Vidic, which you can kind of get. He goes, although I don't think he's really developed that side of his game anyway.
Right, okay.
And then he started to compare what Van der Sar was like, and it was like almost like pilot and co-pilot instructions.
Yeah.
Do like quite measured, basic instructions rather than the Peter Schmeichel, get out! No, everything's on fire kind of goalkeeping. And I said, which do you prefer? And he went, the Van der Sar style. He goes, I'm a pretty chill player. I like it chill. I like to be in control and all that lot. He goes, Schmeichel would have done my head in.
There's a good point here from Juan Martinez, and he said, De Gea's on way too much money for his form in the last few years. It's also nearing the end of us ever being able to sell him. Hendo's the future. Do you agree with that? Like, if we're going to get any money for De Gea, it may have to be this summer, because once he's post 30,
I don't think. I think because he's on, it's like 375 bag.
And is he the most expensive or the most highly paid goalkeeper in history or something like that?
Could be. Who'd be on more than him?
I think, yeah. And also, there's this thing with the trouble you got to remember with David De Gea is his star has dimmed a little bit, not just here but in Spain. He's had some poor performances for the Spanish national team where he was
panned at the World Cup,
blamed, and he doesn't have that protection that sometimes you have in Spain, where if you play for Real Madrid, certain papers will back you. Play for Barcelona, other papers will back you. You don't have any of that.
He plays for United, so
so he's got all the he's got the entire press are quite happy to vilify him, and I think that now he isn't going to sort of attract all the attention and desire that a Real Madrid or maybe like Barcelona might look to him and go, okay, yeah, we'll have him. I think clubs will still want David De Gea, but if you look at who's been linked with, I think me and you had it on the live the other week. It's good clubs. I think it was it Juve or PSG or
I think were Atletico mentioned there?
Maybe.
Certainly big names.
Big names, but not.
Old Oblak.
Similar age to De Gea.
I don't.
He's only early.
I don't know. I'm
not sure it was.
I don't think it was Atletico. I think it was PSG, Juventus, and some. Wasn't Munich, was it?
It was Bayern Munich.
Was it Bayern Munich?
It was.
Right. So 3 big clubs. I know.
I mean, Neuer's 35 though, isn't he?
On that basis, then that's a journalist making shit up.
Yeah, it probably is. I mean, most of the transfer stories are. My point being is, I don't see there's a lot of rumours, even rumours about Real Madrid now are in for him again. Look at the Spanish situation as well with money and that. Are they going all out to spend 40, 50, 60 million quid plus another 30 million quid?
None of the big Spanish teams need a goalkeeper.
They don't need a goalkeeper. They haven't got the money for it. And it's not there, and they need to spend money elsewhere.
People need to talk about this. Barcelona are $1 billion in debt.
I know. That makes our debt look
and they're trying to pay. How much is Messi's wage? Isn't it like
$2 million a week? It will be if he signs his new one.
What did you just say in my ear then? That's what he's currently on. He's 1.2 million.
The new one was 2.
Wow.
They just did everything they could, couldn't they, to keep hold of him?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm not taking a pay cut for no one.
Nope.
We've got a super chat from Abdullah. He said, in 2014-15, Gary Neville did an analysis on the improvements De Gea made from previous years in which he'd improved his catching and coming off his line. He seems to have gone backwards since then. Do you agree? Do you remember that, first of all, and do you agree that he's gone backwards in that time?
I definitely think he's gone backwards. I also think that sometimes a player can just be a system player, and it works in this system, doesn't work in this system, and that includes goalkeepers.
Yeah,
a certain style of system, like a United team that was a bit of the underdog, a bit of the underdog, a team that's maybe conceding quite a lot of shots in certain places, but it's shots from outside the box rather than work goals or like crosses. Like maybe that's what we conceded a lot of under Louis and Jose when he was winning Player of the Season, and maybe for those reasons he got to highlight his best attributes, which is his reflex saving, which might be still the best in the world in terms of those reflex saves. But now maybe the game's changed. Like the rules have literally changed in terms of playing out. Are things like that starting to have an impact in terms of the efficiency of De Gea, the abilities of De Gea? Is there just a different focus on what we need as a football team? And as a consequence, is he looking in a worse light because of that? It could also be form. It could also be lockdown. It could also be the fact that his wife lives in another country.
And has been pregnant clearly for the last 9 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're right to take those things into consideration. And I think we dismiss things like lockdown, like the mental fatigue that can cause for players.
But it has been 2 years now, hasn't it?
But yeah, that was my point I was getting to. Is like, you're right. Since Spurs,
close to 3 really.
Since Spurs, the Wembley 1-0 when Marcus scored.
The World Cup.
But I think there was
Jesse's didn't come back for a World Cup either.
It was a bit patchy then, but from that Spurs game onwards, it was just seemed to be a catalogue. It was like the Derby, Watford, Barca, Chelsea. There was just like, what is going on? Chelsea again.
Everton.
Everton.
Dropped it in the back of his net.
And you're like, Arsenal, and you're like, this isn't the David De Gea we know. Do you know what I mean?
Not the guy making like 13, 14 saves like he did in
breaking the record for those saves. The point you were making before, and that's not one I thought of. When De Gea joined Man United, you couldn't pass the ball inside the 18-yard box from a goal kick. Now, I think we must have done it half a dozen times, if not 10 times yesterday. We start, and not to great effect, I'll say, but we're trying it.
We look like an under-7 team who's just heard about it,
we are passing the ball out from goal kicks to our defenders.
To him.
No, what are you doing? Why have you done that?
But
not your hands.
But we're trying it, and we're going for it, and obviously that's part of the rules, like I said. So if the goalkeeper's in and amongst the passing lanes immediately because he's passing it to the 6-yard line, he's going to have to get that ball to his feet more often. And to be fair, Dean Henderson gave the ball away a couple of times yesterday. Okay. And I think any goalkeeper that is going to be playing out from the back and passing a lot is going to give the ball, because no one has 100% pass accuracy, no matter how good they are.
Goalkeepers are usually around a 50% mark anyway, because a lot of what they do will be the in-close stuff. But they often go for proper low percentage balls over the halfway line.
Yeah.
And who is accurate over the halfway line? And people in the comments are probably going to say Henderson. It'll still be like 56%.
Right.
Yeah, so that's always going to be another part of it. But yeah, the crosses and the corners and the stuff, that's the thing for me. And even if it's not Henderson,
do you know what as well? Else. It's that whole thing, and I know this sounds like a sort of basic argument, but Dean Henderson to me looks like someone who believes in himself, has that confidence, comes in and he's like, I want to get
almost a bravado.
Yeah, and a little bit of that. And sometimes David De Gea to me,
the street he's a bit nuts.
Well,
which is not a bad thing.
Do you know what I mean? Within reason.
I mean, it can be a bad thing.
Yeah, it depends how Fabian Bard says you want to go. I know you love him.
But I like chaos, Jay.
I know you do, mate. That's true. But with David De Gea, sometimes, despite the fact he's our most experienced player or one of them, he looks like almost nervous.
He's got to be our most experienced. Certainly at United.
I mean, I was going to say Phil Jones.
Is anyone even close? But no, he won't be because he's only got about 200 appearances. Rashford's not far off.
But again, though, let's not forget, 12 months ago, the captaincy became available at Manchester United, and no one.
Went like this. Anyway.
Yeah, no one gave any credible reason why De Gea should be the captain. And no one really thought he should be. No one's suggesting it. Even now when people like to question Maguire, no one's saying it should be De Gea.
Bruno,
and he's been there 5 years longer than anyone else.
Yeah.
And he plays every week.
Hang on, so if we actually listed this out, it's De Gea was what, 2011?
Yeah, and he's played every game since then, essentially.
Because that's the same. He was the same window as.
He must have made 400 or 500 appearances for
Jones
United.
Doesn't play anymore. So yeah, you're right. It's got to be him.
De Gea, then who?
I mean, what in terms of experience?
In the starting 11, or let's say the 15-16 that generally start.
I mean,
isn't it like Tony Marshall next?
Yeah, I would guess it probably would be. Then maybe Rashford, Shaw.
Well, Shaw.
It'll be Shaw and Marshall. Tony.
Shaw and Marshall was the same year, wasn't it?
Yeah, but wasn't Marshall towards the end of the window and Shaw was
also Shaw's had a year out.
Yeah.
Whatever. They're the same season, essentially. Yeah. So Shaw and Marshall after De Gea.
Yeah. I mean, Jones, but he don't play.
Yeah, so.
How mad's that? That's not a lot of experience. Consider what left in like 2013. Wow.
No.
Juan Martinez said, swap De Gea for Juve for Ronaldo or Dybala. Love the show. I don't think either of those are
very good in that.
No, it's not.
I think, we mean you've spoken about this a few times, I think Dybala's chances of coming to Old Trafford came and went if it happened.
For Dybala, it's just a younger matter. Yeah. And I'm not sure that this is spotting a team for a younger matter.
And I don't think Ronaldo's coming back to Old Trafford. I've never thought that, to be honest with you.
But a boy can dream, Jay.
Yeah, that's, keep the pipe
when do you reckon
alive.
he's going to retire?
Ronaldo? 20,
Got to hit 40. Got to hit 40.
I
think he's 35. Yeah. He will be a passable player for a very good team.
I think he's going to go and do like badge collecting. I think he's going to I've got a medal from here. Yeah. I'm going to fuck off
South Korean League.
I'm going to go to France. I'm going to go to the German League. I'm going to go to the Dutch League. I'm going to go to the Swiss Premier League because what's that? 5 games. Where's he not won one now?
Scotland.
Finish in Portugal.
Head up to Aberdeen for a season.
I mean, even Steven Gerrard's won a league in Scotland, so I can't imagine it'd be that difficult for Ronaldo to win. There's only fucking 5 teams in the Premier, isn't there?
Something like that. Big Doss has said, Dave has been an incredible servant at United, but Henderson hasn't had the same effect on De Gea as Tellez has had on Shaw. Unfortunately, time to move on. Now, speaking of moving on, and speaking of Shaw, that's a great segue to our next point.
Nicely done, sir.
Thank you very much. James Ducker, who we heard from before, talking about Dean Henderson, has spoken about Luke Shaw in the Telegraph.
Off Rio for Luke Shaw.
I'm not going to rinse you. We're just going to talk about it.
I mean, it's not like it's an off-limits
like
topic.
A rinse,
do you know what I mean?
So this is what James Ducker had to say after the game yesterday. He said he may have been out of the international picture for 2.5 years, but if he maintains this form, he should be firmly in the mix for a starting place at the European Championship finals this summer. This is Luke Shaw, obviously. Yeah. Only City's John Stones, another brace for an England call after too long in the international wilderness, has had a renaissance story to rival Shaw this term. But that Shaw has gone. This was a little later on. And in its place is one of the best left-backs in Europe, says James Ducker.
Bold statements from Mr. Ducker.
Now, whether that final statement is hyperbole for the sake of an article, United have just beat City, let's go.
Sell this article or whatever, or make people click on me.
And we can maybe come to some of his weaknesses after, but for now, let's stick to what Luke Shaw has improved on.
No, let's go back to this, because I'm sick of this. And this isn't a Luke Shaw thing, this is a journalist thing.
Yes.
John Stones has to start for England because XYZ.
Yeah.
It's like when Trent has to start for England for XYZ. Have you fucking looked at the England squad? I personally think Southgate needs to come up with a strategy first, rather than what's my best 11 players and how they're going to play. I think he needs to come with a strategy first and then select the players for the strategy. Because for me, the polar opposite ones is Trent or Wan-Bissaka. Who are you taking?
No, that makes sense. The John Stone one, I think, is a bit of a no-brainer anyway, because I think he's played a lot of under Southgate anyway. It's not like
he's probably going to play.
That's
but
like
either way,
not a massive revelation.
You could still make an argument where John Stones isn't the starting.
Yeah,
if you want to play
Mings and Maguire have played loads of games recently.
That's what Mings is having a decent season.
Mings is having a decent season.
If you wanted to play a team that's going to sit in a low block, which England fucking should do, because England are blessed with some outrageous, fast, deadly attackers, no cunt in midfield, and then a bit of a mixed bag in defence, right? Yeah. So I would say play on the counter. It suits a lot of the players that you've got at the moment, and that might mean you do go with Mings over Stones. And a lot of people will go, well, Stones is better. Well, this is the Gerrard Lampard fucking argument we had for 20-odd years and why England won fuck all.
All right, but going back to that, though, who is England's left-back in a minute?
I mean,
I don't even know
Chilwell.
Often, but not always. That's the thing. We kind of don't have a first... Like, Chilwell doesn't play every single time for England. I know he's often the first choice, but he's not always...
Is he always first choice for
Chelsea? Do you know someone who's been overlooked this season?
He hasn't been since Tuchel.
Cresswell. Cresswell's done fantastic with West Ham this season. He's played as a left-side centre-half in a free, and he's played as left-back when they've played a back four. And he's got forward. I think he's only like 1 assist off Shaw's total in terms of assists, and defensively, he's an absolute fucking rock. But... plays for West Ham, won't get fancied. And no one's going to write an article about why Cresswell should play for England. But he should be in the consideration. Now, if England are going to go, we're going to attack, I think Shaw's probably the first name on the list for that.
To that point, he's created the most chances of any player in the Premier League in 2021 and the most chances of any fullback in the league all season. So going forward, he's got way better, hasn't he?
He has, yeah.
Not why do you think that is, though?
I don't like that. That chance creation thing, because it doesn't tell you the quality. His expected assist is actually under a lot of.
Is it? Well, a chance creation is a pass that leads to a shot, isn't it? Regardless of what happens with that shot.
Yeah, and the problem with that is he takes our corners. And if Maguire wins a header, it goes down as a chance. We all know that wasn't a chance.
Yeah. One thing I will say for sure, though, as well, I've liked him and Marcus down our left-hand side.
Yeah, they do seem to be getting
like there's a bit of an understanding there, which has been lacking. And I think the thing that goes back to as well is Marcus is just a lot better on the left-hand side. I much prefer Marcus Rashford on that left-hand side.
I'm so glad we've stopped moving him around.
It does my head in when I see him on the right. And I think, yes, he'll always give his all, Marcus Rashford. You could play him in goal, and he'll be like John O'Shea. But...
possibly got injured yesterday on the back of just putting a
70-yard sprinter. Ollie pointed out as well, I was glad he'd be like highlighted that after the game. And had they got a goal, 2-1 with half an hour to go, I think they go on and get at least a draw out of it.
Sorry, go on. Do you think that, I mean, obviously, we can all agree Luke Shaw's got much better going forward.
Yeah,
he didn't seem to offer anything going forward for years, and you think he's meant to be an attacking left-back.
Do you know when we came out of lockdown?
Or he's meant to be good going forward.
Yeah.
And people were like, oh, you were great. And I was literally going, no.
Yeah.
And then he had one game, I think it was Villa, where he actually contributed in the final third. Because, there's first-team players who have gone, I don't like him, and here's why. And this is what happens in certain scenarios in the game. He's definitely changed that. He's definitely changed that aspect of his game. Rio just mentioned upstairs there, he reminds him a bit of Evra, where he's been very good between... He wouldn't say he agreed with me, definitely, on the defensive side of stuff, but he fucking does in a group chat. I don't know why he wouldn't say it on camera. But in between the boxes, he's pretty effective. I still think there's a lot of lapses in defence when he's defending. I think he's the last into the box. There was something I was pointing out to you before. I think it was about 41 minutes into the game yesterday. City had a drive. I think it was Rodri. Rodri enters the D, and Maguire can't go and deal with him because Shaw's still in like the number 6 position. And some people go, that's because he's attacking. It's not. And if he is attacking, I've got no issue with that sometimes. Sometimes you just up the pitch and that's where you expect Fred, McTominay, people like that to start covering for you. But sometimes you're just not in the right position or you've just been flat-footed. And when he's been flat-footed, I've seen him about 3 or 4 times sprint back into position and I've gone, yes. But that's the rarity. The more likely thing is he jogs back into position. And for me, I don't like that.
Well, let me put it this way to you then, right? Okay.
But can I just say before we finish on that, though, because people think I've got this massive agenda against him. And I'll challenge you to say, what have I said about him that's been provably wrong? Well, because all my issue is in terms of his defence, and they go, he kept Salah quiet. And you're like, did he though?
But what I will ask you is this then. You said about him improving going forward. Mm-hmm. Like, since lockdown, which isn't that long, can we not see that improvement defensively as well then? He's obviously a player who's got it in him.
Yeah, you probably could.
Because you've just pointed out. So
you probably could.
There's not like he's a bad player.
I actually think his form's been 6 weeks.
I'm not saying
People
that anyway.
going on like it's been the entire season. It really hasn't been the entire season. But the last 6 weeks, I mean, he had 2 assists coming into like.
That's
the
what I mean.
He's
kicked on again. I'm not.
But now he's added like 5 in the last 6 weeks or something along those lines.
Plus a goal as well. Throw that in. You can't
4 assists and a goal in his last 8 games or something. Yeah.
Someone mentioned in my fucking review last night, 24 minutes and not even mentioned Shaw. literally was like, give him a lot of credit for. I'd sort of give it between the two of them. Henderson for spotting his run and finding him in space and fucking off this playing out the back caper that was shite at. Found Luke Shaw in space. Luke Shaw's either first or second touch.
His first touch, I think,
that chest between 2 men that just goes straight past Cancelo.
Destroys Cancelo by that sort of movement and started an attack.
You pointed out as well.
I will have that all day long.
You pointed out in your review where you said that the sort of the 1-2 whatever it was with Marcus wasn't even that great.
No, it was a shit pass to Marcus, and Marcus gave him a shit pass
and
back.
He got his
and he just
shot
kind of was like, "Oh shit, I'm in the right spot."
And it was a great finish. It was. I saw
really
Peter Spencer from the area and going, "Oh, it was fluke." It wasn't. It was a great finish.
But do you know on that? I'm more happy that he took the shot because so many times I see a United player in that sort of circumstance, and they'll take a touch. Or did he hit it first time?
Yeah,
right.
I think so.
He either took one touch and hit it or hit it first time. I'm not sure.
But
I think
they'll either take a touch. They'll go, "Oh, it's not me that's meant to shoot." Like they'll do something, and I just thought I was really happy to see us take shots. That's a good spot to shoot from. That's a nice place that you've got a good chance of shooting from. Keeper was wrong-footed. He could put it right in the corner. From a technical point of view, apart from the 1-2 with Marcus, which both of them were shit, the finish was top. But it was more the impetus from that first touch. That burst of pace, that change of pace, left Cancelo in the dust. He might as well have been sitting on a deck chair. He was gone, and then an attack had started. And because United have become this pacey sort of counter-attacking side, it opened us up, and immediately was like, we're in here.
Yeah.
Can we get a shot off is all I'm thinking. And a lot of the time is you got to think, I see people dug out Marcus for missing against Leicester. I'm not going to dig out Martial. All I'll ever say is, was it on target? If you don't get it on target, you deserve digging out. But you get it on target, you got to be a bit better than that. You got to be a bit luckier, but you can't dig him out for getting a shot on target. I think if he'd have put that one away at 2-0, I think it definitely would have been game over.
I was gutted for that as well because he could have done with that. He had a good performance. That would have given him a really good performance, a goal, getting a penalty, and involved in some decent play. But I just feel like it's still, even though he got man of the match, there's still that thing of, but he should have scored. Do you know what I mean? And I think it would have been good for him.
I think that's probably right, is that he probably should have scored.
Oh, yeah. I'm just saying he could have done with that. Because just for him, I want to see the Andy Martial of old from last season. There's
two extremes of player. You've got your Tevez and your Berbatov.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be Berbatov, when that ball falls to you at 12 yard out, you got to put it away. You can get away with being Tevez if you're bleeding out your eyes to try and put work in. People will accept you maybe not finishing every chance or maybe scuffing the occasional chance. But if you're going to have that languid kind of relaxed, chilled sort of not really going for it in terms of pressing, you've got to be amazing at the other thing. And you've got to be able to stick the ball in the back of the net when the opportunity arises like that, especially because that sees the game off. Now, I don't know, we got away with it. City never even ended up scoring. But we've literally seen games where, the Everton game.
Yeah.
Even the Everton game at 4-4. We make it 5-2, game over. We win another title.
That one on the line.
You allow them back onto you, and that City team and this United team are definitely capable of scoring and conceding a couple of goals in 5 minutes.
That's another thing. When I was saying like when Marcus made his challenge, that they got a goal then. Or I was with you. When Martial didn't score, I thought if they get another goal now, the narrative's going to be that's what's cost us the game, not any good he's done. It's going to be about that, and that's what was worrying me because regardless of what we think of players, we all want to see the best for them for Manchester United. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I want to see from Tony Martial. And I think that whether we like it or not, a striker's going to get judged on his goals. He will, and he's got 4 Premier League goals, and people will look at that and go,
and on that,
4 Premier League goals.
How many penalties we had this season? 9, 10, I guess. Right. If Martial had been taking the penalties instead of Bruno, he'd be on 14 goals.
That's if he scores them all, though, isn't it? And there's no
big
guarantee
if,
of
yeah.
that.
Good,
Let's say he scores 7 of those 10.
Yeah.
Just give him average.
Yeah, average.
Okay, which is
11.
the bang on average.
Yeah. So he's on 11 goals, say, or 10 goals.
There's no panic no more.
No, that's a good point. That's fair enough because I think that does play a part in it. You know, when people go.
Bruno's been fantastic, but realistically, you're judging your strikers on pure goal output. There's probably like 25 goals in the last year and a half to distribute amongst other players, and Bruno's got them all. Now, Bruno's penalty taking is phenomenal. I understand it. But when you're judging your strikers on goals alone, maybe it would be nice if they were spread out a touch.
Do you think that would work having 4 penalty takers, or do you just think go with the one that's got the 96% penalty success rate?
I'm unsure because I think Bruno's little hop, skippity jump at some point will come back and be an issue.
Like if it's 1 in every 17.
He didn't do it yesterday.
No.
He just stood up and smacked it in. And I think having alternatives in your locker, and whether that's whether that's Marcus, whether that's Marshall, because if you keep them out of practice, the day Bruno goes off or is injured or is suspended or just isn't playing and you have to have someone step up who's rusty, wouldn't it be better to have, even if it's just a slight rotation? Because one, if you're coming to play United, are you doing research on Marcus for penalties? Or are you just going, I'm going to work on Bruno's little
We did that last season, didn't we? Marcus took one in the game, Bruno took one in.
Yeah.
And then this season against Leipzig at home,
Marshall
took one. Yeah, so we've had mixed it up a little bit. I know what you mean.
Matt has taken him in the past as well.
Yeah, it's always been mainly Bruno since he's arrived. But we have mixed it up a little bit. I don't know. I just think with Bruno, I think he's record 18 out of 19 for me. And I think as well, we had that merry-go-round of Pogba, Rashford, just all sorts of nonsense going on.
I think they were all changing through because they were missing.
Yeah, and I just think with Bruno, I just stick with him.
And that's why I think you have a slight rotation where you go, do you know what? Whoever gets it today, Marshall, you're on it. And then the next game, maybe whoever gets it today, Bruno, you're back on. Just to keep the opposition guessing and just to keep that player in the frame of mind and almost make it a listed out thing. Because then if you miss and you're Tony Marshall, well, you was never on it next week anyway, so you've not been demoted. Yeah. And then in 5 or 6 weeks' time, you have another pop at it.
Yeah, I can see the benefits to that. But in my head, pick the player that's most likely to score the penalty would be my way of doing it. But I can see
then
why
you get to a penalty shootout and everyone flaps.
Well, there's that, but let's say we were switching it, they would only have taken 2 each anyway. Do you know what I mean? There's 5 of them. They'd have had 2 each all season anyway.
At the minute, I'm just like
last
Bruno.
season.
Yeah.
We all have one, including De Gea.
We'd have got one down from the stand. If we were going around season tickets, number 71. Christopher Hawkins, he said, in 15 to 20 years, do you think Rooney and Gerrard will be managing United and Liverpool respectively?
No.
Me neither.
I hope Steven Gerrard gets the gig next season. Because I think he'll happily stop them from winning more titles.
It will not take 15 to 20 years. If Gerrard's going to be Liverpool's manager, it will happen in 5 years' time. Yeah, like Lampard did. And
probably Rooney would as well.
Yeah,
I would be surprised if Solskjaer sticks around for another 5 years, and half of that's
imagine
if he sticks around for 5 years, he's won a title.
Yeah.
Or a Champions League.
The Glazers have probably shafted him, which you'll definitely be touching on in a minute. But Rooney, from what I'm hearing from the lads at Derby and from what I'm seeing Derby do, looks all right.
Exciting. Ross Murphy said he's got a mate who's an Arsenal fan. He said that we're just a better version of Arsenal. We'll beat anyone but lose to a poor team, which renders the win against the Big Six.
Stop talking to Arsenal fans about football.
That's a good point. Vishal says, lads, we all know where this captain... there's one captain of this team, and that's Bruno Fernandes.
Marcus Rashford's my pick. You know my thoughts on that.
Robert Terwilliger says... says, Joe, what are you using in your hair? It looks beautiful. Shampoo, conditioner, and then just a little cap full of olive oil.
That's what I use as well. That's mad, that.
Christian Shea says, if the rumours are true, Cavani wants to leave and United wants to trigger Haaland's release clause, who would you pick up as a striker in the meantime? Now, speaking of that, we've got a tweet about that.
What?
And it's...
Cavani's had enough already?
Well, apparently, Manu Olivari has come out and said that Cavani wants to return to South America this summer, with his first choice being Boca Juniors. He obviously would have to lower his salary considerably. First of all, Manu Olivari. Anyone familiar?
No.
Okay, good.
I don't want to guess who he is.
Is that even a real person?
How many is he like? He's got 4 followers on Twitter.
He's got plenty of followers.
Is he verified?
Is that a big problem for United if that's true? I mean,
it was definitely a stopgap.
Under the proviso that it's that it is true, which it may well
not
not
a
be.
big problem by any stretch of
Do you not think?
imagination. I don't think so. I think it's a slight concern because it is useful having Henderson Cavani. He has played his part. I think I'm going to get pellets for saying this, but
Shit.
no, I think it's been almost over-exaggerated what he's done a little bit by United fans. Some United fans, we love him, and it's like he's got a great chance, and he did score. You know, he has scored some goals. But if you look at his record,
Jay,
and some of the
I
chances
can't
missed,
let him come
It's not
and go without
amazing.
seeing him play in the flesh.
I know, and I want to see him, and I know that I'll be singing that song.
And,
can
can you imagine Old Trafford singing that?
It'd be mint. It would be mint. But there's.
I just want it to happen, Jay.
I know.
Manuel
Igalo got his moment. Igalo got his.
He's
Come
doing me
on.
fucking head in. He's not
Manuel
even verified.
Olivari isn't verified, but he's got 35,000 followers on Twitter, and he works for DirecTV
And he follows
Sports.
35,000 people too.
He follows 1,000, so wind your neck in, yeah. How worried are you about that? Like, do you think we need to buy a striker this summer regardless?
I did anyway.
Yeah. But do you think we will?
I don't know because the Glazers are just... I got a graphic coming out pretty soon.
Whoa. Sick.
Aye.
This guy graphics, right?
Graphic coming out
so
real soon
you've not lived
about how
to see one of his graphics.
Absolutely. I mean, they've shafted us, but you're not going to understand the level of shafting that we're going to have.
Yeah.
It's like a fucking gangbang.
I've seen it, and it is pretty rough to watch,
Yeah,
isn't
it's
it?
horrible.
Yeah. We've got a couple more super chats. Christian has said, I've read that one. Sahaj Shetty, says, it felt Shakespearean, Ollie the Macduff beating the Macbeth in Pep with the Scotsman in midfield. Tell us more, Jay.
Despair thy charm, foul
Yeah.
prince, for from his mother's womb Macduff was timely ripped. If memory serves, as you well know.
The Scottish play.
Fucking
Yes.
sub,
So-
please.
See? He's done you there, hasn't he? What was that about? Did you like that?
Because the wicked, not
Do I
the
look like an
the-
English lit kind of guy?
You look like you
They
you wouldn't
conned him,
mind
didn't they?
holding a skull and
Yeah.
talking to it.
Yeah, that's different.
Well, that's Hamlet, innit?
Yeah. All right. Sounds odd.
Aye.
Hamlet. Shakespeare.
Hamlet
Alas, poor
fucking
Yorick.
low-
Was
I
it
knew him
Shakespeare or
well.
was it not Shakespeare?
Hamlet a
Shakespeare.
low-key fucking loon as
Chaucer.
well.
Yeah, Hamlet was very much a balloon.
I might read Hamlet.
No, Hamlet was a pussy hole. He spent the entire play debating whether to kill his father's murderer.
Did he do it in the end?
Sort of, yeah.
I went to see Hamlet at the
How are you a
Salford.
sort of murderer?
No, it was all long-winded, and there was
Yeah.
like a sword fight and poisoning and all this drama. You've got to watch it, mate.
Yeah,
It's
mate,
very long.
you had to be there.
Do you know what I mean?
500 years ago, you had to be there,
No,
mate. We've got another super chat from Resonating Silence, which sounds like it sounds like a punk band you could have been in when you're about 17.
I was going to say, it sounds like
Why would I be in a
a
punk
Smith's
band?
Just
instrumental.
shouting, screaming down a mic. You could have got into that.
Yeah, you
West
could have done
Coast
that.
Rap me.
West Coast.
My name is Stephen, and I'm here to say fish chips curry sauce twice a day.
Yes.
Resonating
Well
Silence said,
You
credit
made
to
that
Mr.
work. I was worried,
Can
but you
you
made
laughing
that
off
work.
camera baggers?
You made that work.
Credit to Mr. Howson, who talked about how Diaz at City is constantly keeping an eye on the entire centre back, on the entire back line, and then Pep said the same thing in his interview with Rio. That's what good
Almost like
centre-backs
I know what
do,
the
isn't
fuck
it?
I'm talking about.
Almost.
It is actually, isn't it? I want to talk a bit more about the full defence, actually. Wan-Bissaka is kind of gone under the radar in this conversation because we sort of take for granted that he's good
There's also
defensively.
no one else going to play there.
Certainly one-on-one. And also, I was going to say, there's no other options. Centre-backs. Maguire and Lindelof. I mean, Maguire gets a lot of stick, but almost with the assumption that he's going to be there no matter what because they spent a lot of money.
Well,
he is United's best centre-back, I think.
I think that's fair.
Lindelof, I thought was good yesterday. Do you see a world where, with maybe different midfielders in front of him, with maybe the continuation of Henderson behind him, Lindelof and Maguire as a partnership could ever work, or is it just a ticking time bomb?
No, I think probably there's a couple of things at play here. United need to probably embrace the identity of being a counter-attacking side in the big games. And I think that covers up for both Maguire and Lindelof's inability to run quick, or pace as they call it.
Run quick.
Run quick. And I think when you have that deep defensive line like that, I think it suits him. And I think Lindelof's very good at that. He's good at reading balls into the channels, dealing with that sort of stuff, staying on his feet, blocking. Pretty good fundamentals of defending. The problem with him is he doesn't have that aggressive defending, that match-winning sometimes needed defending, that hard defending, that the quick recovery, that last-ditch tackle, he's not amazing in the air. And here's another thing. People are going to pull out, oh, look how many... There's the problem with stats. Without context, stats are just fucking mental. Lindelof's got one of the highest heading aerial duel percentages in the league. But would you trust him in the air?
Yeah, no. I mean, Maguire's someone who has a very high-headed thing, but you see it all the time. He's actually brilliant in the air.
The reason for this is, and this is why you have to have context to stats to understand what the stats are saying. Lindelof wins headers on the halfway line. Very often that's a punt up from the opposition goalkeeper. He's generally under not a lot of real pressure, and he wins those headers, and he does win those headers. And he heads it back across the back line, and he does those things quite well. But he's got a massive deficiency against direct football teams when teams go straight down the pipe. That old school English sort of
West
long
Brom
ball,
the other week, sorry.
He suffers, and he suffers really badly. Calvert-Lewin has actually made him bitch a couple of times. You've seen Harry Kane has done it to him. The traditional English centre forward style player, he's just no good with. And maybe in those games, Eric Bailly should play, because when you play a more continental style team, your Manchester Cities. He had a great game once against Juventus. Yes and no in Liverpool, because they love a long ball.
They love a cross as well.
Yeah, they won't want to admit it. But there's times when Lindelof is very, very good at what you're about to play against, and there's times when he ain't the right answer, and you need something more combative. And there's a bit some old school style about the way Eric Bailly kind of plays. But I think yesterday, if Eric Bailly would have played, probably go a penalty away.
Do you know something that Lindelof reminds me of? He reminds me of Daley Blind a little bit in that sense. That I reckon Lindelof could go to Barcelona or
look amazing
and look like one of the best centre backs in the world. Because I mean,
or play in the Championship and never play in the Championship.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I mean, he's not as good as PK. I'm not suggesting he is, but I think PK struggles against a lot of the same things Lindelof does, and he's been regarded as one of the best in the world, and rightly so. He's not the same level, but
systems matter.
Exactly, systems do definitely matter. So, do you think we need a new centre back?
Yeah, we probably do. It might not necessarily be either of those two that have to go. It might be Maguire. Although I don't think it is. I tend to lean with Joe.
Manager.
No, but you made him captain. He's your record signing. He's playing.
Yeah.
But it might be him. Maybe it is him. Maybe he is the one that would make way. But politically and financially, it ain't going to be.
But do you not think? I mean, I'm not just saying this because whatever. I do think Maguire is our best centre back.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. I think when you take everything into consideration, fitness, the availability, the performances, overall,
Oh, his injury proneness is sensational. That's what I mean. Or lack of injury.
That's what I mean. And that Eric Bailly is amazing, but he plays once every 3 games for a reason. Yeah. If that.
Yeah. Right, I reckon that's a good place to wrap it up there. Let us know in the comments what you think to Shaw and Henderson in particular. Also, I'm just going to say we've got a members video coming out this week.
So dick out or not? No dick out.
We're keeping him in on this one just because legally and all that sort of stuff.
You can on the flop. It's all right.
Do you think if it's like Jay's Shakespeare and that they do it there, don't they?
Educational.
I wouldn't say that unless it's sort of checking out what's wrong with.
There might be dick out. Why don't you join as a member and find out? But if you do join as a member and we get to 1,000, we're like 60, 70 away from 1,000 members. Yeah, we're doing a 1991 Cup Winners' Cup watch along, and we'll get a player in for it. So if you'd like to watch that, then join as a member. It's next to the subscribe button below. Hit the join. Come and be a member.
Yes, and also coming out at 7 o'clock tonight. Premier League piss take, and there's actually finally quite a bit to take the piss out of, because I don't know if you know this, City lost yesterday.
No, I didn't know that.
Stupid idiots. So did Liverpool. Arsenal, who cares, but they dropped points as well. It's a good episode. Make sure you check out 7 o'clock tonight. Thank you very much for joining us, Steve. Thank you for joining us, of course, Jay. Thank you to everyone for joining us at home. This has been the Stretford Paddock Podcast, I suppose. We'll see you in a bit.